So we're going to move on to interfacing Jade with other technologies now. So those of you who joined us for the Jade users group this year might recall that the theme was Connect. So interfacing Jade to other technologies is really just about how Jade connects to the technology ecosystem in which it lives. So with Jade 2018, we do have an exciting new feature, and we've also got a couple of improvements to existing features in this area. So, first of all, WebSockets. Happy to announce that Jade is now compatible with the WebSocket protocol. So I'm going to be going into what you can do with that new feature, and we're going to have a little bit of a demo. Then we've also made some improvements to 3 of our existing features. So we've got some improvements to .NET importing, to REST services, and to web sessions. But first of all, we'll save the best for first and go on to WebSockets. So first thing to note is we now provide a couple of extra root schema classes, Jade WebSocket and Jade WebSocket Server. Using these, Jade can act as a WebSocket server. Now, I'm sure probably some of you are pretty familiar with WebSockets, maybe some of you aren't. Just in case, the main distinction, I guess, between WebSockets and other similar communication protocols is that the communication is bidirectional. So the server can send messages to the client freely without the need to wait for a request every time. You do still need to have the client start up the initial connection, but once it has and you've got a session open, the messages can freely go either way, and both ways at the same time even. So let's kind of look at how that kind of looks. So first of all, pretty much like every HTTP connection, you start with the client connecting to the server. Server accepts the session, you have your normal handshaking, server and client are now connected. Once you've got a connection, the client can both send and listen for data streams, and the server can do the same. So unlike the request-response, you can just have 2 data streams going. So we've got a little bit of a demo just to kind of show you what you can do with it. It's just a very simple demo just to kind of see that yes, this does work and kind of have a bit of a look. So in this demo, we're going to have a web browser just running a WebSocket client. It's just a little bit of JavaScript on a web page. And then Jade's going to, of course, act as the WebSocket server. So first thing I'm going to do is let's open up. So there's just a really simple Jade form. Up you get. Now we're going to open up the socket. So for a WebSocket, you're going to have at least 1 socket open. Normally you'd have many sockets, kind of one for each client perhaps. We've just got a single socket here. Now, pardon me, let me just start up my client. Drag it over here. So you see, just a very simple bit of JavaScript here. First of all, we can see that we've got the connection established. Oh good, we've got a connection. Now, like normal, I can send messages from the client to the server, so I can go, hello, Jade, and send. There's just a local host connection, incidentally. Pops up on Jade. Now that's pretty standard. Clients can always send messages to the server. The interesting thing is, even though this is a server, I can also go, hello, oh, if I can spell correctly, JavaScript. Did I spell that right?
You got 3 L's there.
Oh, wonderful. I'm just going to pretend that was intentional, just to kind of keep things a little bit light and festive. Yeah. Hello, JavaScript. Wonderful. So yeah, it's pretty much as simple as that. There's just that kind of one advantage to WebSockets. The main thing is, hey, you can now use WebSockets with Jade, and that's kind of cool. Now, let's get rid of that, and let's get rid of that. Woo! Off you go. Wonderful. Cool. So, really, the main thing we saw is once the connection is established, either can send messages at any time. Moving along, we've got just a little bit of improvement to .NET importing. So this is when you've got some .NET classes, you're importing them over into Jade. The main thing is when you're importing a .NET class that has some superclasses, even if they're in a different assembly, we can now bring those along as well. Now this is an opt-in feature. By default, you'll get the old behavior, but if you want to make use of this, what you can do is if you head over into the .NET import wizard, just select this new little checkbox we've got here called import superclasses and other assemblies, and as long as that's checked, you'll get the new behavior, which is whenever you're importing a .NET class, it'll pull in all of the superclasses, even if those are in different assemblies. Along with that, we've just got a little bit of kind of improvements to, I guess, the cleanup procedures. So first of all, if you re-import an assembly, and there's some entities that are no longer defined, that re-import process will now just do a bit of cleanup and delete those unused entities, or undefined entities rather. The other little cleanup improvement is if you re-parent a class in the assembly, the re-import process will do that move and it will move the existing class to the new parent.
Will that also handle when you do the deploy to a system that's already got those classes with a different hierarchy?
Good question. Do we have any volunteers? We might. What?
The reparenting only happens on the import. It's not going to. Sorry, I'll say that again. The reparenting only happens on the import process. It's not going to happen during a deploy. So that's it.
Yeah. So it looks like just the improvement just when you're doing the .NET import. Nowhere else. Oh, thanks for the question though. So next along, we have some improvements to REST services. A bunch of little ones here. So first of all, we've got a way to call protected properties if that's something you wanted to do. We've got some improvements to the behavior, making it a bit more consistent between the data formats, exception response formats. So now we can match your format when we're giving you back an exception. And finally something with shared transient responses, which I'll get into soon. So first up, calling protected properties. Might sound a little bit weird, like why are we calling protected properties should be protected? There is a specific use case with this to do with getting exception info back to a client. So it's maybe something that not everyone will want to do, but you might have a use for it. So if you do want to opt into this setting, we've got a checkbox to opt in with it, which will show you where that lives. So in the web options sheet, there's this little box, exclude protected properties. If you tick that, if that one's ticked, then it's going to not, it's going to exclude all the protected properties as it says. If it's ticked to exclude, if it's unticked, then it won't exclude them and it'll include the protected properties. Again, you may or may not want to be doing that, but if you do want to specifically include protected properties, you can now do that. Basically, that was, oh, g'day.
So that would be ticked by default then?
I believe that one is, I think all tick boxes are unticked by default, but you may want to tick it when you're doing your web options.
So it's a change of behaviour by default?
I believe so, yes. Is that correct, Bob? Yeah. So this was one of those ones which was, we had a request for this particular feature. It is, you're right that it is a little bit strange that it's, unticked by default, that it's framed in a negative like that. But yeah, we might just move on to the next one along there, humdy-hoo. So data format consistency. So this is, essentially this is a bug fix, really. So previously, if you've got an XML formatted REST request, it would allow you to update read-only properties. But in JSON, it wouldn't allow you to update read-only properties. What we've done is we've just brought the XML behavior in line with the JSON behavior, so now you can't update read-only properties whether you're in XML or whether you're in JSON. So hopefully no one was using this to update read-only properties, because really that's something we probably don't want to be doing. Next one along was exception response format. Pretty simple change here. Previously, whenever you got an exception, the exception response was always formatted in XML. If you're using JSON, you probably don't want it in XML, you want it in JSON. So now, whenever you got an exception response, it will just match whatever format the request was in. So if you did the request in XML, you get it back in XML. If you do the request in JSON, you get it back in JSON. Finally on this one, shared transient responses. So this was another one which was, it was essentially a bug that we fixed. Previously, the rule of whether to delete a REST response object was it would delete everything except persistent objects. Now that's fine for just a normal transient, but what that would also mean is that you'd be deleting shared transient REST response objects, which you wouldn't necessarily be wanting to do. We've just kind of flipped that rule a bit to say, now we're going to delete only transient REST response objects. So shared transient REST response objects will now not be automatically deleted. So what would happen before is whenever a REST service method returned a non-persistent object, Jade would add it to this objects to be deleted collection, and it would try and delete it. That would end up deleting your shared transients, which wasn't necessarily what you'd want. So now only transients will be deleted by that process. And finally, lucky last for the connectivity, web session timeout. Now, this is just a really simple thing. You don't actually need to do anything to take advantage of this feature, just something to let you know about. Web sessions were previously stored in a string array. They're now stored in a dictionary. Now, the significance of that change is simply that when we're deleting them, it's faster. It's faster to look it up from a dictionary, pull it out and kill it, than to go through the whole string array. So it's just a little bit of a performance improvement there for when you're deleting web sessions.